Now let's move on down the board. And this is one of the places where people get very concerned because there's so many knobs, so many channels. Like, what does all this mean? It's really not hard. If you learn one of them all the way down, if I learn all of channel 6, it's exactly the same thing repeated multiple times. So let's take a look. From the top of the channel, it tells you the channel number. In this case, this is channel 8. There's a select button, and that's going to be important to remember because as you start working on things, if you're twisting and touching and turning some things, but you're not on channel 8, but you want to fix something that's on this channel with Gertie, they just did the show Oklahoma. If you want to fix something on that channel, but you start twisting and turning things, but you're not on that channel, you're not affecting Gertie. You're actually affecting channel 5, which is Ado Annie. So back on channel 8, so we're selected here. I always tell my students to touch up here before you start making other adjustments, unless you're just dealing with faders down at the bottom. So this is a Q button. This now, when I touch Q, it sends it to the headphone out that we looked at earlier. That sends it to the headphone so we can listen to that individual channel and see what's going on. Maybe there's static in that channel. Maybe we want to make sure that we got the microphone on the right spot. Maybe we're getting popping from the actor or actress who's popping their P's. They're really explosive. And so we want to try to figure out which actor that is so we can use that cue and go through each individual actor to see who that is. Then again, we have the meters. Again, if you're in the minus 20 area, you're in good shape. Minus 40, you really want that to be lit up on an actor, and minus 20 most of the time as well. Peak, if it gets into the peak and that one starts lighting up, that's bad. Peak is distortion. Distortion can kill speakers and just sounds bad. So you don't want it to ever hit that peak. And then you have the channel on and off button. Makes it live or not. Okay, it's on, they can speak, you'll hear them through the system. Now they're off. The next thing down, this tells you what input channel you're on. Wireless mic, letter H in this case. Channel input 8, I8. And again, it says down here, channel 8. And then you have, down at the bottom, you have the faders. Let's talk about the faders for just a second. One of the things you need to know about faders, not sliders, but faders, when you set up a microphone, and we'll go through this, you want it to be at 0. And then you can pull it back and you can adjust. But we always set the microphones up at 0 when we want to get a sound level. So set it up at 0, and then you always know with all of your microphones, if you start at 0 for your show, you know you're in good shape. You're pretty close, and you've got room to raise the sound, and you've got plenty of room to shape the sound down here. And then finally, we come over to the right-hand side. This is the master fader. This controls the master output to the system. Again, I run mine at 0. And then you have aux sends, aux 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. On this console, aux 1 is listed as the monitors, and that's already been pre-assigned from the installers. So when we hit aux 1, notice it lights up, and then other things happen. These faders all jumped and moved. We'll turn the cue off. But now these are all selected. They're all going to auxiliary 1. But notice they're not on. They're not in the monitors. If you want this actor, Fred, to go into the monitor, you have to turn it on and you have to turn him up. Otherwise, there's nothing going to the monitor from Fred. This is the monitor master. So if you have no monitor sound, again, make sure the monitor master is up and make sure you have something going to the monitors. In a show situation, you may not want the actors in the monitors. You may only want the track if you're playing a recorded track accompaniment. But it does sometimes help the actors to hear themselves. Just make sure that you have the accompaniment track up louder than the actors so they can always hear the accompaniment track. So all the other aux sends, and you have some stereo sends down here at the bottom. Aux send 910, aux send 1112, aux send 1314, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Those would be if you want to do a stereo recording from the back of the mixing console. You have to plug that in. And then you have effects 1 and effects 2 down here at the bottom. And again, this is where you can assign, if we've got Fred up, I can assign how much of effects 1 Fred's going to get, how much reverb Fred is going to get. This is the effects master, okay, for effects 1. And so that's all, these all work in the same manner. So this is always the master output for all of these faders. I can turn that off again just by touching it, turn it on, turn it off. And then down here at the very, very bottom, this is a tap tempo button. There are some effects that are tempo based, like a delay. Maybe not often used in musicals, but sometimes delays are used on voices to thicken up the sound. Delay, lay, 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 delay, lay, 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 lay. And it sounds like it's an echo in a canyon, but if it's very subtle, it will add to just the thickness of the tracks, the thickness of the voices, and can be a nice effect. It's really used a lot on guitars, instrumentalists, but sometimes it's used on vocals as well. So that's an overview of your mixing console.